This episode of the podcast is brought to you by our friends at Regrow, the premier cloud-based cannabis supply chain management system.
Question for all the cannabis operators out there. Are your SOPs tied directly to your cultivation plans? Can you easily manage your inventory and workforce and vendors from a single system? Can you manage compliance across multiple licenses and states? If you said no to any of these questions, you need to stop what you're doing and talk to the team at Regrow. Compared to other software systems on the market, when you choose Regrow as a strategic business partner, you'll get all aspects of regulatory compliance built in, with the added value of workforce management, inventory, SOP management, and reporting and metrics that allow for companies to scale successfully. Regrow is the single pane of glass view into your entire supply chain, and the software will help you increase your revenue while keeping your entire operation fully compliant. Give them a call or visit their website at regrow.io. That's regrow.io. Regrow, the premier cloud-based cannabis supply chain management system. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Zoned Properties. With the cannabis industry now licensing projects in over 35 states medicinally and or recreationally, market projections suggest that the real estate opportunity related to cannabis could boast a total addressable market of over $50 billion with projected growth. Zoned Properties is redefining the commercial real estate development process with tailored services for the emerging cannabis market. From securing real estate and project development to opportunities for expansion, Zoned Properties helps clients maximize their cannabis real estate investment and mitigate risk. Zoned Properties has a full spectrum of integrated real estate growth services for highly regulated industries, which include advisory services, brokerage services, and investment services. Zoned Properties has also created strategic partnerships to streamline your cannabis real estate projects, such as retail franchise opportunities, property technology and data solutions, or engineering and construction experts. Let Zoned Properties help you navigate regulatory nuances and launch your cannabis real estate project. Call them today at 877-360-8839 or email them at clients@zonedproperties.com. Once again, that's clients@zonedproperties.com or visit zonedproperties.com to learn more and receive a free project success checklist. Zoned Properties, targeted real estate intelligence for highly regulated industries. Hello again, my fellow people of the plant. In this episode of Cannabinoid Connect, I'm talking with Matt Teifke. He's the founder and lead broker at Teifke Real Estate. Matt earned his real estate license 12 years ago when he was 18, and he's still passionate about the real estate industry. Matt is a huge believer in the power of connecting and adding value, as he is very active within the cannabis conversations online. During our conversation, we discussed the current landscape of medical cannabis in Texas. We discuss real estate opportunities in the cannabis industry. We speak in general about the power of the plant and how it's helped benefit our lives. We also discuss public companies in the cannabis space that Matt is interested in and has invested in the past. We also reflect on the lies and propaganda that we've been told about cannabis for the past 100 years. So I hope you enjoy this episode of Cannabinoid Connect as you watch or listen to my conversation with Matt Teifke, who is the founder and lead broker at Teifke Real Estate. Matt Teifke, what is going on, man?
What's happening, dude? Lots going on. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're here. I was recently on the real estate podcast, which, by the way, you do a great job of, you and your co-host there, and wanted to return the favor here on Cannabinoid Connect, man.
Yes, sir. I love it, man. Yeah, we try to have fun. It's funny because we call it the real estate podcast, but we do cannabis, real estate. We did one with the guy from Algorand crypto earlier. We just try to have fun with it.
Well, see, and that's what the next thing that I was going to say that I really like about what you're doing, because it's so outside of the box thinking, but it's all really related to real estate, right? Because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I got from your podcast, the real estate podcast, is that you kind of feature entrepreneurs and kind of leaders in different spaces, thought leaders that are kind of provoking thought and making change. You have them on. And of course, those people need real estate. They need locations to operate their business. So it all makes sense. I mean, was that kind of what you were thinking?
Yeah, and you probably know this as well or feel this way, but it's kind of like my personal journey, like I'm trying to have content and have valuable information, but I also want to just talk about things that I personally like. And luckily with real estate, I mean, it probably can apply to everything in some form or fashion. But I am always trying to figure out for myself, like, how do I stay ahead of, changes? I love cannabis. I love the flower. Crypto wise, I really want to figure out a way to bring blockchain into our real estate brokerage. And maybe one day I pair all three of them up. I mean, I'm invested in cannabis. I'm invested a little bit in this company called Algorand. Not sure if you know much about them.
No.
And then our brokerage is growing. And so just trying to figure it out as I go and kind of take people on our journey at the same time, try to add value and learn and build relationships and meet a bunch of people. So it's really fun, and I enjoy it a lot.
I love that, man. And I definitely can relate. I mean, I give you a lot of kudos and respect. The fact that you're doing what you do, you're passionate about just kind of learning more. And like you said, adding value, which I think is super important in this day and age because there's so much noise out there. So,
Yeah. And real quick,
yeah,
I don't mean to cut you off, but
no,
like,
go ahead.
it's funny just to think like, because I'm like a big believer in one value add and like long-term thinking. And I don't really look at anybody or anything as competition. Not because I put myself above them, but it's like I don't even think like that. And so it's just funny to think about our competitors as far as real estate brokerages in Austin. They're like, what in the hell are these guys doing? Like they have no idea what to think.
Bro, you're playing chess while they're playing checkers. Let them play checkers, you know? But I totally agree. And I think that's the right mindset to have, right? Is to not focus so much on the competition or what they're doing. And because I'll like really you're doing your own thing, right? Everybody has their own style, their own flow, their own way of delivering. And so like if you kind of push all that stuff aside and you just focus on like yourself and just improving on what you're doing and producing good content, like everything naturally falls into place, right? Don't you think?
Totally, man. And all you can do is try to get a little bit better every time, like every video, because we release a lot of videos that aren't podcasts, and we try to make them a little better, a little cleaner, a little better quality, everything. So it's all about just constant improvement. Against you're competing with yourself, right? And I do like to try to be different. I don't know exactly what there is to that, but I don't like to be doing the same thing as anybody else. But naturally, like no real estate companies talk about marijuana and crypto and do that as far as marketing their company. So it's kind of cool. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, the subject matter definitely makes you guys, or let's say, differentiator for you, but also it's you. Like Matt,
Yeah.
you have your own style, your own way of talking, your own way of like carrying conversation, and I've experienced it being on your podcast, and you do a great job. You and Alex, right? Isn't
Yeah.
Alex
Yeah.
your?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
yeah. So I mean, this is a good segue, I guess. Like, so tell me, like, where does this strong passion for cannabis and crypto, you touched on it a little bit, like, but where did it start? Like, and how has it gotten you to this place now where you're at?
Yeah. Really for cannabis, it started because I'm a consumer. And we talked about this a little bit, but it was just fascinating the first couple times I tried it, and my mind, I honestly felt like I looked at the world differently in a positive way. Like I just for me personally, I had realized that there were some lies out there that I had been told, one about the flower and the plant, and it made me wonder what else am I being lied and told about. And I think that's the core of it, is like in a lot of ways that experience and opening my mind through that like made me just rethink everything. And I just constantly do that. I'm like, well, why does a real estate brokerage have to only talk about real estate? Or why does an agent have to act this way? And so it just freed me up to literally just want to go explore and try new things and experiment. And someone told me this quote and I love it. It's he who experiments the most wins. And
Yeah, I
whether
like
it's
that.
yeah, whether you win financially or not, who cares? you get to go experience, and like you get to be yourself and push new boundaries. And I hate trying to fit in a box. Like dude, it's pretty fascinating. I'm meeting with some pretty big time like billionaire real estate guys.
Yeah.
And dude, I show up in my backwards hat and my sandals, and like I know
Good.
that they want me to
Good.
yeah, and like I know they want me to dress a certain way, but it's like I just want to be me.
Right. And you're kind, you're professional, but you're being you. And that you can't hate on that, right? And if you do, then there's kind of something wrong with you. Like you said, no one in this day and age should really fit in a box. And we're seeing that a lot, I think, with like, a lot of the extreme progressive movements that are going on, or even just regular progressive movements. It's out there. People want this, sense of individualism. And I applaud that, man. I think that that's a good thing, and more people should be like that. And that's kind of one thing that's like difficult for me is like in the corporate world, is that kind of fit the box structure or fit the same kind of way you should act and think and talk. And that's why cannabis is so exciting for me, because while it's still in its infancy stage, once it gets there, like, I talked with Nicole Upshaw, VP of HR at Jushi, and we're talking about how the cannabis industry could be its own thing. It could really kind of operate and do things differently. And that's kind of the hope that I'm excited about, for the
Yeah, dude,
future.
and it's like, I guess on a human level, like we're all experiencing the same things. We all go home and have the same thoughts and feelings about life. It's like, why are we trying to just dress up and all act like we don't? Like, let's just be real and have respect for each other and let people be themselves.
Yeah. And I think that that's kind of one side effect of cannabis, right? Is you touched on it, is this like realization of like kind of like stopping for a moment and just kind of critically thinking, okay, what's going on? Like, what are we doing here? Right. And also the side effect that you mentioned is that creativity aspect, right? The out of the box thinking. And it sounds like you've applied that really with, your podcast, which is pretty unconventional, as we've talked about. But it's working. It makes sense and it's adding value.
Yeah, no, exactly, man. It does. I don't know. Yeah, I'm 100% on board, and it's sad that people feel a certain way about the plant. Like, I actually started getting all worked up a little earlier today about like everything that's going on with politics, and like these people, man. I mean, it's easy to get upset at politicians and stuff, but they know what needs to happen, and they're just
I
playing
know.
games,
I
and it's
know.
really sad. Like that, this is what's happening.
It's frustrating, man. And you know what? And I'm one who's like, I mean, I'm sure you've heard me say it, or I might have said it in your podcast, like where you got to try to drown out that noise and whatnot. But hey, we're all human, and I'm with you. There's days where I'm just like, I want to explode on Twitter, or I just want to like, get it all out. And just because, to your point, there's just so much low hanging fruit, and not just cannabis, but in other areas where it's like, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we thinking about that?
Yeah.
Think,
And
yeah.
dude, I've gone like all in on cannabis. Like I've got 60-70% of all the money I've ever made in cannabis. And so it's been a struggle in that sense. But what's fascinating is like, we obviously know that we're right. We know what's going to happen, but we very well could, like, I don't think so, but we could be too early, and like nothing might change for 15, 20 years. And technically financially we're wrong. Oh well, like, obviously money's
Nah,
important.
I don't think it's gonna. So okay, so here's my thing. I don't think it'll be 20 years. I think that we will see a 7 to 10 year kind of full fruition of this. And yes, I think we are early. Like we're definitely the early ones, because there's a small subset right now. The MSO gang, like, there's a small faction of people, I would say, that are really hyper focused on the American cannabis market, right?
Yeah.
But as that, I think that with the pattern that we're in right now is we're in kind of the fuckery stage. We're like, what is happening behind the scenes throughout this process of federal legalization, and what's the outcome, right? Like what are the wins, what are the losses, like, so because right now I feel like a lot of it's being politicized, right? I mean, I truly feel that the Democrats are holding it hostage until the election, to kind of use it as like, hey, we're talking about it, but I don't know. I don't see much action being done.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about, is what I was getting worked up about, like that exact thing happening. Yeah, and you're having like people come on your podcast, me too. And I don't think in 5 years or 10 years, like random people like me are going to be able to reach out and get a CEO of a billion-dollar company on. So we're lucky in that sense to be early. Like you said, it's kind of a small world. And there's this whole dynamic where like there's the straight business people, then there's the straight, stoners, and then like kind of like I feel like you and I, we're like hybrids. Like, yeah, money's important, but really I lean more towards the
I think everybody should have access to it. I think that the
yeah.
world's a better place with it. I think, outside of the medicinal, like we've talked about on your podcast, the environmental, the material applications that can be made from hemp. I mean, it's endless, right? The environmental like benefits, it's insane.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, screw it, man. Like, I mean, I'll just call it like it is. I already say I consume. It's illegal in Texas. But like, I've had people that are, I don't know if I told you this or not, but literally dying from cancer, and telling me this is the only thing that helps me. And I give them my volcano vaporizer. I go and get them a bunch of flour, and I'm not gonna lie, like I started crying thinking about it, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm a fucking criminal right now. And this guy is telling me that, and he's not even a weed smoker. He's going to his last resort. And he's telling me that this helps him after all the pills, all the BS. And this is what, I'm a criminal. This is the world that we live in. Like, that is fucked up.
It's backwards shit, right? It's ass backwards. And I mean, I can't tell you how many stories I've heard that. And look, I'm not downplaying it, because like it gets me emotional thinking about it, because it's almost like they look to you like you're this miracle worker, or you're this doctor, or you're this, where it's just like, no, this is a medicine that can help your ailment. But we just haven't, as a society, gotten past this 100-year probation that we're still fighting.
But like, I feel like we have, like, everybody agrees except freaking Paul, like the people that are pulling the strings. Like, nobody that I talk to, and I'm in Texas, like is at the point where they're like, no, it should. I mean, some people, but majority of people believe it needs to be legal, and they agree with it on some form. And it's just, yeah, it's backwards.
It's backwards and it's sad. And you say it, you talk about crypto, right? And I'm seeing it in all levels of different industries. This kind of, I don't know how else to put it, but this like effort of suppression, right? Where we're, as a society, we're getting smarter, we're figuring out new things, and then there's just this kind of shutdown, right? Like we've seen it with cannabis again 100 years back, where we knew we used it for so much. You talk about like investing now, right? People are investing in crypto. They're learning, they're using brokerage firms like Robinhood and Webull, things that are very easily accessible, and they're trading. And now we're seeing a slap 40%, capital gains tax now. It's like you just can't win. It seems like in any turn.
Dude, it's true. And unfortunately, like I'm much bigger about cannabis. I mean, crypto is important too, but crypto, like, it's almost like, yeah, that tax thing, I didn't know about that. But it's almost like they don't care about the regulations. Like, that's gonna succeed almost no matter what. It seems like they're gonna be regulated, I assume. But cannabis, with like limited license and all this stuff, I mean, it's such a different space, but both are changing the game, and they're going to happen.
They're gonna happen. Exactly. It's inevitable. So I think, like I said, we're in that pattern, that weird, awkward pattern where we're just caught up in the government figuring out, how are we going to regulate this? How are we going to roll this out? How are we going to generate tax revenue from it? Right. So like, it's just, like you said, it's like the early stages, but it's at the same time, it's like really fun too, right? Because, we're seeing people being released from prison. Obviously, there's still a lot that are still locked up. I think 40,000 approximately. But we're starting to see more of a focus of social equity and restorative justice, and just like success stories, like you're saying, of people that had ailments and now they're using this plant for to improve their life and their well-being.
Yeah, and this is like something random that comes to mind on the same topic of like the differences of what's going on. I love Jay-Z, right? He's
Yeah,
awesome, but
he's
like,
great.
not that he did anything wrong, but Jay-Z raps about drugs and selling drugs and all this stuff. And there's people in prison for that. He literally raps about it. And now he's, a huge investor in all these companies making all this money, just like these other politicians that are on the board of Acreage and this and that. And other people are in jail. Like, what the fuck is going on here? It's so stupid. And I'm not knocking Jay-Z. I think he's, I'm just using that as an example of like, he talks about it.
Like the blatancy of it, right? Like in your
Yeah, like,
face.
dude, he
Yeah.
talks about it, and like like, people respect him and they should respect him. But like, he in another life he could be in jail, and it's just so weird.
It's so weird, man. And
I
that's
could be in jail too, but for the obviously. So for
it's
smoking in Texas.
right. I mean, well, is it not decriminalized? I thought that there was talks of like Dallas County. Maybe it was, I don't know. I thought
Yeah,
it
I
was
mean, there's certain things like dude, it was so funny.
if you have sorry to cut you off, if you have concentrate though, like if you have oil, I feel like that's a felony, like across the board. You can't have any type of concentrate. Flour, I think, is decriminalized, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it's a weird,
yeah.
it's a weird thing. I mean, because definitely certain amounts you can go to jail. But I'm in Round Rock, which is in a lot of ways, most of the time, it's like top 10 safest cities in the country. And there's not a lot of bad stuff going on here. And when there's something bad, the police got a helicopter out, chasing kids. And it tripped me out.
Yeah,
because
I'm familiar with Round Rock. I used to work in the large headquarters. Will say I worked at that company.
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But like the chief of police came out like 2 years ago or a year and a half, and he was talking about how they didn't have the equipment to test if it was CBD or THC.
Oh yeah.
And he literally was saying on the news, he's like, we don't have the equipment, so we're not gonna test or bring you in. I'm like, did he just basically say it's legal? Like, what's going on here, man? I'm so confused.
Did that really happen? That's hilarious.
Dude,
oh
I
my
swear,
god.
there's an article. I mean, it's on video, and like, wait, so we can smoke?
So free reign, I guess. Like, yeah. Oh my. So when was that? I mean, have they addressed that since, or is that kind of still open ended?
That's the deal. I mean, nothing's changed.
I got to go out to Round Rock then and visit you, man.
Oh man, they'll get you with the speeding ticket before that.
No, but there's other places that are super crazy and strict in Texas, obviously, right? Like the smaller rural cities. Like, I think for people listening, and correct if I'm wrong, or tell me if you disagree, Matt, but like in Texas, I'd say like the larger cities for the most part are not lenient, but like you can smell it around. Like people are doing it if it's like there's concerts or whatever, but I think it's decriminalized, right? But in other cities that are very small, I mean, they throw the book at you. Like it's no nonsense.
But it's still, you're right. But regardless, like you definitely do not feel like you can just smoke it. Like you're on the lookout, like, like us smokers are when it's illegal.
Right.
You're like, is anyone? So that alone that's horrible. It's like even socially, like if I go to a party with like my friend's parents or anybody, you don't openly smoke. It's just everyone can drink beer, but you want to go smoke, go hide in the corner, you druggie. That's the feeling.
What do you think it is, man? So I'm not a Texas native, right? I've lived here for 10 years. I'm from New Mexico originally. But like, what's the beef with Texas and cannabis? Like, is it just the traditional conservative Republican not liking it? Or what's the beef? Is it because they see it as a Schedule I and it falls in that category? Like, is it just misinformation, education?
Yeah. It's just like it's like everything we're talking about. It just doesn't make sense, right? Like everybody in Texas loves Willie Nelson. Like all the Republicans and conservatives love Willie Nelson. Yet they all know he literally is like the freaking poster child for weed, and they don't agree with that, but they're just not going to talk about it.
Right.
Like And there's so many, everyone smokes, like freaking country boys and whoever. Like,
Right. And Texas is a state that likes to make money, right? Like it's a business oriented state. So I wonder why, like even like not even being as open on the hemp side, like industrial hemp, right? Like opening up a market in Texas where we can actually get investors to build infrastructure for decortication and like I don't understand why that's not something that we're jumping at, because I feel like Texas would be a leader in that. And I'm not saying there's not effort for that. Of course, there's people on the ground working hard, but I just don't see it as a priority at the state level.
dude,
You
only
know?
thing I can think of is it has to be greed. There's greed at certain levels
Yeah,
that either want control or I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
it doesn't. And I mean, we'll never know, right? Like we're speculating, but it's inevitable, like we've talked about, and it's going to be a domino effect, right? Like we've seen it happen in the East Coast, with New Jersey, New York, and we're going to see more and more, I think, of that play out. And I just wonder if Texas is going to be in the middle. Are they going to be last? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's
like, I mean, I haven't been following it too closely, but for years I keep seeing Mexico, completely legalized, and they just like continuously push it off. Like I thought it was already legal. Like obviously we're right next to Mexico. Like what's going on there? Like what the hell is this?
yeah, yeah. So that's a great question. From what my understanding, I believe, like you said, they passed it, but like it's up in the air because they don't have any plans to roll it out and like put regulation around it. So they said, okay, we all agree, let's pass this thing. And so now it's just like, okay, next step is to roll up the sleeves and actually implement the programs.
Yeah, 10 years later, right?
I don't know. It's such a, and every country's, we're gonna see that also. That's a good point. Like we're gonna see how different countries roll it out and how they do it differently and do different things, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And I'm on board with like 1,000,000% with like the social equity aspect of it. And like I think, minorities have been wronged more than anybody with it, right? Because just
yeah.
the incarceration. But I just don't understand like the politicians that on the Democratic side that are kind of like pushing for that. But in reality, I feel like they're still hurt. Those people are still going to jail. Like just make some progress. That's my opinion. Like uh, these big companies, if you don't agree with them, they're still going to make more money than anybody. They're still going to get further ahead the longer you wait. I just don't get it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the best person who talked about social equity efforts at the federal level, in my opinion, and he was on my podcast, is Alan Gandelman out of New York. He's the president of the NYPGA. And he talks about really like if they wanted to really focus on social equity and do it right, like he describes a formula. I encourage you to watch it. I don't want to repeat what he says because I'll butcher it and not get it right, but I
Yeah.
remember like that making a lot of sense to me when he was saying it, because the reality is this industry and is very, very difficult to enter, right? Not only due to the competition, but also the capital. It costs a lot of money to enter, right? Especially if you're going to have a cultivation site or, whatever it is. And so I don't know. I think that there's got to be a lot of thought around more than just kind of licensing. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is, but I do know it needs to be legal. We both obviously agree. Uh,
We
Dude,
agree
I
about
used to
that.
think I'm with you on more now on the freaking 5, 7, 10 year plan. I like a year ago, I was saying like 1 or 2 years. Like because I've always been thinking and it still could obviously with the the safe banking and everything, but I've always felt like if that were to pass, I feel like the floodgates would open. I'm not sure. It's so hard to know how these things play out. But I'm waiting, man. It's funny because I really have most of my capital in cannabis,
Me
and
too.
I just can't wait until like all these banks that have been like pushing me off are now like wanting to work with me. I'm like, yes,
Yeah, the floodgates are gonna open big time once safe banking passes. I mean, first and foremost, businesses are gonna be protected, right? Because they're not going to have to operate in cash. So what I would imagine that crime is going to go down in some of these adult use states and municipalities where the businesses are operating, right? So that's great, first and foremost. The second is like, and I don't know if all this plays out within safe baking, but I'm just talking about kind of the ripple effect. I would imagine, uplisting from there, private institutions are going to come in and invest, right? The big banks of Americas and all that. So that's where we're going to start to see a lot of price action kind of move. And then from there, I mean, hopefully 280E is removed, which is that crazy tax provision that is insane and, it makes no sense. So I don't know. I agree. I think that seems like the most simple kind of first step. But again, I feel, in my view, I feel like the bill is being held a bit hostage just because of like the midterm elections and like, the fact that the Democratic Party has already kind of voiced that they're behind this, right? They're pushing for it. So why rush? I don't know, right? I don't know. Like,
and dude, we're so blessed that we live in the time we do now. Because if you and I lived 20 years ago, we'd probably be feeling the same way. But and we just would know that it's probably not going to happen. At least we know it's going to happen in our lifetime. We're so lucky for that.
it is. I mean, dude, I never thought in my lifetime that my home state, New Mexico, would be legal, right? Like, my dad is such a rule follower, and like I've shared a joint with him in the backyard now that it's legal. You know what I mean? So that has been cool. And I didn't mean to dismiss what you said earlier, like really brushing it like 20 years, but I just feel like with social media and just this real time and like how you said there's so much public support, and on Twitter, we're pushing every day. I don't see that stopping, that momentum, so the pressure's applied. It's just like when, right? It's a matter of it, when, not if.
Yeah. And it's going to be the best day.
we gotta hang out somehow, but we're both in Texas, so we gotta figure that day out. Yeah.
We will.
Yeah. So what else is on your mind, man? Tell me what you you mentioned that you're in cannabis stocks. What companies do you like?
Dude, I like all of them. Like that's another thing. I don't really understand why there's like all these like feuds between these companies. I guess that's back to that competition mindset. And I'm a risk taker, and I know people think I'm crazy, but I was always back in the day, because I've been investing since like 2012.
Wow.
Maybe even before then.
Nice.
And dude, it started with
I'm a late bloomer, 2018.
I started it with these companies. Some people probably don't even know them, but like TRTC, they're still around. There was one called FITX, Sen Biotech, and they were penny stocks. And like, I rode the wave, man. I was in college, and I had like 15,000 or 20,000, and me and my buddy were making like 6,000 a day.
Damn.
And we were like so pumped up. Another one was PHOT. It was I forget what it's called, but the symbol is PHOT.
In college, you're raking in that money. That's it's a good time to be alive, my man.
Well, it all freaking shut down, dude. Like it was going up and up and up, and then PHOT, like I never even knew this was a thing. The SEC halted them. Literally, it was like SEC halted, and then like they 30 days later, they're like, all right.
Wait, they stopped trading?
Yeah, they're like, there's a trading halt.
So same thing they did with AMC and
GameStop. but for like days,
Whoa.
like that was for like hours, right? AMC or something.
I think that was it was for a day. I think you're right. Yeah.
This got shut down, and I was like, well, I guess there was some major fraud that was going down. And then they unlocked it, and like they never said anything. They never said there was any problems or nothing. They never said anything. And stock was like cut. Our 30 grand went to 2.
What?
Yeah,
Holy shit!
I was depressed, right? Like seriously, it's all my money. And then I got, then I started finding out like these Canadian companies, and they're like a little bit more serious. They had better revenues. I started learning about like, oh, here's how you read the filings, and I read the filings now. So I was big on Aurora and Afria, and I felt like it was taking a little more risk, but there was a higher reward. Because Canopy seemed like it was already established and people knew about it. And this one is like Canopy was at like $6.
Right. Wow. And what year was this?
I think this was a little later, like 2017.
Okay, so the year after Canada went legal, so that was why you're like, okay, this makes sense, right? Because the whole
Yeah, yeah.
country of Canada.
Well,
went
actually, I was actually in before they went legal. Like, because I remember like watching the votes,
legal. Wow.
watching them pass it, you know. And I
Well
did the
done,
same thing.
man.
I was doing the same thing in Georgia. Like I was watching that vote, the election, stayed up super late. But anyways, I was like, all right, I want to stop being such a risk taker. I was like, all right, Warren Buffett said, pick the industry that you like the most and then find the best company in that industry. And so I said, okay, it's Canopy, right? And I was in before Canopy got the 248 million from Constellation. And then I just kept buying and buying and buying and buying. And then they put in 4 billion. And I'm like, great. Like now you definitely can't go wrong. There's 4 billion. And they're trading lower than what Constellation pay. I think they paid like $27 a share, and now it's freaking 13. And so like the thing that sucked for me is I've always been buying, and I never really wanted to be a trader. I wasn't just trying to capitalize on quick money. I just was like, I want to be in this industry and I
Right.
believe in it. And I would have done way better if I had been trading. I'm down, dude. And that's what sucks is like I've been in this for 6-7 years and I'm literally down.
Yeah. Wow. You know what? You're making me think, and this has been reinforced, man, like with a couple of people now, and Wolf of Weed Street being one, Jason Spatafora. He talked about this, man, and he said, take your profit. Like
Yeah.
and I had never, because I had that same mindset. This was literally, I just changed my mindset literally like, a month ago when I talked to him, because I was buying and holding, buying, buying. And like in some cases in my portfolio, I'm in red, like to you, I'm down, right? And I'm like, I was in this so early. What happened? But it's that he goes, when you're making profit, he said, take 30%, and then buy the other companies so that, and then over time, you'll buy it back when it goes down, but he said, basically that's how he made his million. Like he was just buying, sell, get that, take that profit, have dry powder, boom, pull the trigger,
Yeah. I know, dude. It's just, I'm stubborn. Cause I just don't like, and that's what I freaking love about real estate. You don't have these kind of problems.
Right.
And I'm not really a stock guy. This is the only way I know how to invest in cannabis.
Me too, really. Yeah, I just invested cannabis and AMC.
And like, whenever Canopy did the deal with Acreage, I was like, this is the greatest deal ever. Like, cause if you remember, there was a big shift and it was like, cause like, we're kind of like underground, like we know what people are saying and everyone's like the MSOs are where it's at, the MSOs. And everyone was switching to MSOs like a couple of years ago. And I was like, man, like they're right. Like these guys are making a lot of money. Canopy is like losing that leadership position. And then they did that deal with Acreage. And I was like, oh, that's Gene. Now it all makes sense. Like they're still the king. That's what I was always saying. Canopy's the king. And dude, Acreage has been like this for me for 6 months, like every day, tons of money. I mean, I'm heavy. And I honestly think I'm like one of the top like 10% shareholders there. Like, I don't know. And it just goes down and down and down and down. And like, I don't really want to trade. And the tricky thing for me is I was in Acreage whenever like nobody believed in Acreage. Like they thought they were going to shut the lights off like in December. It was like, I was like, is this company even real? And so I was like trying to get a hold of people. I was doing my own research and then things started turning around. Like they actually produced good numbers in my opinion, like 44 million last quarter, where I thought they were going to have nothing and they're a little bit profitable. And so I've still done all my research of like, what are their stores? Like I call the stores, I talk to people like, are you guys busy? This and that. The revenues are going up, the earnings are going up. There's a new team in there. They have really good licenses in New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Ohio. And it's just like, no, I don't know if I'm crazy or what, but like nobody's seeing it. There's barely any, even if I wanted to sell, I feel like I couldn't. Like, I think they traded like 40,000 shares today, like the whole day, and so I'm literally like, for right or wrong, I'm all in on acreage. I literally have one cannabis stock and it's acreage. And it was always on the belief that acreage is canopy and
And
canopy
that's the biggest.
and they will, whether or not they're number one, like I was always like, they will be around. And now I legitimately question that. And like,
Yeah.
I love Cureleaf. I love Green Thumb. Like I love TerraSyn. I love Gage. I like all these companies. And I'm literally probably in the freaking worst performing one for all I know.
Well, I own a little bit of acreage and I'm down also. I made this mistake. I jumped into All Canada also right at the beginning and didn't know anything about the MSOs, and then I heard about them and I just cut my losses. Like there was a pivotal point where I just remember following on social media and whatnot, and the money that I had in the market, I was like, now's the time. Like, so I just cut and moved in, you
Yeah.
know.
And dude, like there was a time in when that election happened in Georgia, acreage did the best for the week after that. Like it freaking
Killed
it
it.
was like up 20%, up 20%,
But you
up
and you
20.
just held, right? You didn't,
I didn't
yeah.
sell a thing, dude. I didn't
Yeah.
sell. I think I bought some more shares because I was like, hell yeah, like
Hey man, that's the thing. I mean, we live and learn, right? Like, so what's
yeah,
your plan with acreage? Are you thinking like, I mean, you got to get in the MSO game.
I know. Well, and I don't know why, like why is acreage not considered MSO? Like I don't know
I
why,
don't know
but
if it, I don't know. It might, I mean, I guess I'm speaking presumptuously. I mean, I don't know. Is it? It might be.
I mean nobody in the no none of the guys like it. Like nobody talks about acreage,
I
dude.
know they don't, right? Yeah.
Literally nobody except me. I think I'm like the only one. Um, but
Well,
I yeah,
we need to ask people on this podcast, guys, if you're listening to this, tweet at us and let us know what the deal with acreage is, right? I mean,
everyone talks smack about it. And the unfortunate thing is like, I don't think they actually do due diligence on it. They just talk about like, well, it IPO'd at 20 and here's it at now. It's like, I get that. Like they definitely failed. But from my analysis, and I've talked to the CEO multiple times, like I call him like once every like 2 or 3 weeks, the CFO, I talk to these guys and they're like, it's great. Like they're like, we just acquired 5 licenses in Ohio. Ohio is a massive market that nobody talks about, and we're the leader. And I'm like, yeah, makes sense. Like,
let's get them on the podcast.
they'll come, dude. I mean, they. I just talked to them last week, and they're like, we're gonna start getting out more and telling the story because we just don't think that people are getting it. I mean, they're doing pretty well. Like their financials are good, but at the same time, all these companies are down. So
Right.
they're like, yeah, our stock's down, but look at every cannabis and like Canopy, dude, what the hell? Like they're $13 company. They had the best position. I was like number one Bruce Linton fan. I loved. He was very what's the word?
Charismatic.
Charismatic. Like I felt like he like would just constantly make these power moves that I loved him. Like, dude, I just remember like it was like you could almost once a week or once every couple of weeks, like there's some big news on Twitter about cannabis, whether it be Canopy or not. And now it's just like feels like it's gone. Like nothing ever really happens anymore. It seems like.
Yeah, you don't hear much about Canopy, right? And acreage, like you mentioned. I guess, and maybe it's because of the community that we're really integrated in, which is the MSO. Like, I mean, all I really follow is U.S. cannabis news and financial news. So maybe it's just because it's hyper focused. It's not broader than outside of that scope. But I don't know, man. It's strange. It really is.
But the point is, dude, like I'm in it, and like I literally can't get out. Like even if I wanted to, I just start selling all my shares, and like I'm gonna be the biggest person selling shares and just driving the price down. So, and I don't really want to get out anyways. So like it's kind of a a positive in my, at least I'm telling myself that. It's like, even if I wanted to, I couldn't get out. So, and I've always wanted to I always said like, I'm going to sell when like I'm going to a bar and ordering a joint and like picking out the strain I want. That's what I want to sell. Cause that's when, that's when I perceive like you get like 8 to 12% yearly gains
Right.
on your money. And that's great. But like, I was looking for a big opportunity and it matched up with something I really am passionate about.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. I don't know. I had that same mindset, and like I said, just from conversations that I've had, I'm taking a different approach. And what I think is exciting about the US cannabis market is that like it's consolidation time right now, right? So even if you're not like focused on the tier ones, which you probably should be, there are tier two and tier threes that are up and coming that are going to be acquired eventually as consolidation happens and all this kind of plays out and settles. So there's just so much opportunity for growth. I kind of see it in like phases. It's like tier ones acquire the tier twos and tier threes. And then from there, institutional investors come in, big pharma comes in, eventually legalization, and then big pharma will buy, right? Will acquire. And so it's just going to be this endless kind of beverage companies may acquire. I mean, who knows, but
Yeah, no, I mean, trust me, I know that you're right with the take profit. Like time and time again, it's proven that to be true. Like,
and I just heard that, man. So I'm not acting like you know what I mean? This was a prophecy that Thank You Wolf, told me. So
and he told me too on Twitter, like, and I was just, like I said, I was stubborn, like, yeah, I'm not in it. Cause the other thing is, I don't, obviously he's not wrong, but people that I've always heard is like true wealth is made from long-term buy and hold. And that's right 100% with real estate, with some of these companies that have blown up. That's obviously like Amazon or Tesla or whatever. Another company just kind of random that I'm baffled by, which I also really like, is Riv Capital, Canopy River's new name, Riv Capital. They're literally sitting on more cash than their market cap, like straight up. They have more cash than they're valued at.
I'm talking to their. I was looking because I'm talking to their CEO coming up. That's
Narbe, dude. Narbe
yes,
is the man.
Narve.
I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah. You know him?
Oh yeah, we've had him on a couple times. I had him on last
Nice.
week. He's a super cool guy. And dude, the thing about him, he's like he's a consumer. He loves the plant, and like I think that he's gonna be one of the guys that will be around in 20 years. And from my perspective, like he's gonna be one of the most influential people in all of cannabis. Because the other
Wow.
guys are gonna sell out and move on, but like Narbe is a real deal cannabis guy, and he like he'll like educate on some really deep thoughts on the plant in the future. And like I'm like, dude, you're gonna be the freaking main guy in all of cannabis. That's my opinion.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm excited. I mean, I was looking forward to it, but now I'm super excited after hearing you say that. Yeah. That's cool. I'm gonna listen to your podcast with him to kind of get some
Yeah,
background
I'll send it
knowledge
to
on
you.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, what else is top of mind, Matt? Have we covered everything? Like,
I mean,
what happened?
the only other thing that's really cool, man, is obviously the thing I'm like really into hardcore is real estate. And I'll tell you what I'm thinking on crypto and like our big core focus and vision with real estate, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Um, so what we do is we do a 90-10 commission split with our agents. So they keep 90 and we as a brokerage take 10%. So it's pretty low. A lot of people do 50-50 or 70-30. There are 90-10s. There's even people that you can pay a flat fee and keep 100% of your commission. But I'm a broker and every agent has to have a broker, right? And so my passion has always been to what I say is make money in and on real estate, like make it in the commissions and then make it on the ownership side.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, this business has been built kind of following that mindset that I have. And Alex, my partner, we partnered up about 2.5 years ago. I've been doing real estate for 13 years since I was 17. And Alex has just been the freaking best partner I ever could have imagined.
Nice.
He's a blessing, dude. I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but we grew up together. He was a couple years younger, and by age 20, he was full blown heroin addict and in jail. And now he's 7 years sober, freaking jacked, working out every day, prays, meditates, and like solely focused on the business. And just a beast, man.
Yeah,
And
he's the
so like
man.
he's a guy that enables me to just go grow the company. But the big focus is like we want to get agents to join our team, and we're looking at our agents as true partners. More than trying to make money on the brokerage, we want to like grow with these people and do deals with them. And it's a very different approach. Most brokerages are like, we want to make, this much per agent. And we're just like, we could care less about thinking like that.
Right.
So we say, hey, come to TRE, build your own brand, build your own team, make money on all aspects of real estate, get a 90-10, be entrepreneurial. TRE is our company. And if you spell out entrepreneur, it's, TRE is in there. And I've got this little thing where I'm capitalizing ENTRE-preneurial.
Nice. Yeah.
And it's working, man. We have 115 real estate agents. We have 12 flips going on with 12 different agents. And so it's very different. We're lucky to be in what I call Opportunity City, Austin, Texas. And we're trying to figure out how to like really take this to the next level. We just opened up in Corpus Christi. Alex is there. He drove there today. We're getting some stuff going on in Houston, and there's some really big companies that are trying to acquire us and partner with us. And we always keep an open mind, but like we have something special figured out. And it's really cool that like there's no secret to it. Like I'm literally just telling everybody what I do, but nobody really wants to do it. And there's not a lot of competition. Like if you want to be an agent and you want to like get more out of real estate and not just have to represent buyers or just sellers, come to TRE, and it's resonating with people. And it's ultimately like, it's what I would have wanted in a brokerage. And it's pretty cool. So like our people are building their net worth. They're getting more out of life. And I tell people all the time, if you were to be closing like 10 deals a month and showing 80 properties a week, like you probably wouldn't be happy, even if you're making a lot of money. And it's probably true for most people.
Right.
But it's like, hey, come here and like close like 1 or 2 a month and like flip one every couple months and buy and hold one. And what I'm trying to do is create this roadmap it's a roadmap for financial freedom through real estate. And it's like this big vision I have of like, for example, like step 1, you got to do 10 leases and before you do anything else. And then step 2, set up 5 meetings with off-market sellers. Step 3, buy your first house. Step 4, flip your first house. Step 5, wholesale it. Step 10, get access to $100,000 line of credit. And it literally is like this roadmap. And I want to build this out. The one thing that I don't understand fully or very well is tech, but I feel like tech needs to play a big part of this.
Yeah, like some type of module or, like some type of guide that walks them through those steps and offers resources and tools and
yes. And like within like step 1, 10 leases, like what do you need to be thinking about to be thinking about this as an investor? Even though you're doing leasing, what things do you need to be like, maybe this owner will sell, maybe this or that. And like all of it very detailed on each step. And I think that a lot of people will really love this and they will gravitate towards it. And I think it could be huge. And the other thing is I want to figure out how to have like blockchain, not necessarily crypto, but like blockchain technology involved with this, where it's keeping track of like these steps and it unlocks certain things like that line of credit. Most brokerages have a system where if you bring other agents on, you can get a percentage of their commission or you can get paid. So I think blockchain could help with that. And just
have you reached out to, you should tweet or try to get a hold of Anthony Pompliano, Pomp, on Twitter. I've had him on the podcast. I actually went to college with Pomp.
Dude.
And And so,
Cool. I feel like, I mean, I just feel like he would never respond to me, but
well, the reason I say, I mean, he may not respond to you directly, but from my understanding, he's got some type of crypto jobs program thing where, like, if you're trying to start a business within the crypto world, like he can help, like, or his program helps. So
that's cool. Yeah.
maybe worth looking into, you know what I mean? Because he's hungry to look like for, smart invest or entrepreneurs like yourself that are trying to be innovative,
Yeah, that's
so.
cool. No, man. I mean, we need all the help we can get. We've got a couple things figured out and we know how to do, but to build it big, like we need good people. We need help. So yeah, it's great.
Send me an email about it and I'll forward it to him. I'll make an email intro. Maybe we'll try
Yeah,
it that way.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be cool. I'd love it. And there's some big, I mean, we're lucky to be in Austin, man, because a lot of companies want to be here.
Yeah. No, it's
Uh,
Austin's a great city for entrepreneurship. That's for sure. And
yeah,
startups.
yeah. And so like the biggest of the biggest here brokerages, they're all trying to buy us or partner with us in some form or fashion. And it's just funny. It's back to the Alex thing, man. Like if I didn't have Alex, like I'd be doing good, but I wouldn't be building a big business. And
Right.
Alex basically keeps it all on track.
Yeah. Shout out to Alex, man. And I think that we need to get him on. He was going to come on solo dolo and we were going to have a conversation. So I need to get in touch with him.
Dude, I'm biased, I'm sure, but like I really think he is like the ultimate entrepreneur. Really, I really do. I mean, he's 27 years old. He's got all these things out of his system by the age 20, but he was always all about making money. And like the way that he approaches life, and he's totally sober. He prays, meditates, and like he's just always on his game. He never gets stressed. He's fun to be around, and I'm just super excited to see his career unfold.
That's great. Yeah, you love to hear success stories like that, man, because you know, so often you don't see, it's a small percentage of people who can get out of that situation and really improve their life, and Alex is one who's gone above and beyond that. So, and human capital is key, as you know very well, and being an entrepreneur and running a business. So that's great, man.
And he's still like, dude, he goes and like volunteers at these sober houses, like just to do it. I'm like, dude, you're like the greatest person ever.
Well, we got to get him on, man. I need to reach out. I think that we've had some correspondence on email, but
I'll tell him. Yeah, he'll come on.
yeah, cool, Matt. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on. It's been fun. I think we've covered about everything. But I want to leave the floor to you. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with before we wrap up?
Man, I just, I guess if anyone's needing help or struggling with anything that they think I can help out with, like legitimately, I'll help you any way I possibly can. I'm super easy to get a hold of. So just reach out. My email is just Matt, my last name, Teifke at gmail.com. We're all over social media, Teifke Real Estate. And, we're all in it together, man. And you're right. Like, it's pretty special when you realize how long of a game this really is. And, we're building a relationship, we're talking, but like we could be doing stuff for the next 30 years. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people get that or approach things like that. But when you do, like my biggest piece of advice, like just stay in touch with people and try to help them out, and don't just like move to the net onto the next. You're just wasting your time.
Yeah, that's sound advice, man. And, Matt, I want to have you on, regularly as, we hear things in Texas or federally as things kind of play out, because, we're both Texas boys. We're both in the podcast game. And it's just good that we continue to kind of, learn, but in that process, also try to help educate others as well, man. So appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Yeah, anytime. Yeah, keep it up, dude. We'll keep trying to push forward.
Sounds good. And I need to talk to some of your guests that you've had on, man. You've had some good ones. So
Any of them, man, let me know. I'll try to help you. Narbe is great. I really like Gage. What's his name?
Fabian.
Fabian, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get Green Thumb, Ben on. Dude,
Who isn't?
Ben's interview, he's messaging me back. He said he's gonna do it. But his
More
whole
than
interview,
I've got.
You see his interview where he was, I'm sure you did, like, new facts are hard.
Mm-hmm.
That was like legendary for me,
That
dude.
was that's been one of the best interviews where it's like he shut shit down right away. And we need that. We need someone who just doesn't even play into the bullshit. Just shut it down with stats and data, because that's our friend, you know.
Yeah. And then I've got, if you ever want a good crypto one, I have a good buddy, Lamar. He's been in crypto for like 10 years.
Awesome.
His brother is actually on the Patriots. Cannon was his last name. He's a lineman
Oh
back
wow.
like not too long ago. But Lamar's a cool dude and he loves crypto.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, no, I'll definitely reach out because I'm always looking to talk to people. So I appreciate that.
Cool. Absolutely, man. Well, appreciate everybody else. And yeah, always here to be a resource.
Absolutely. Yes. And thank you all for listening. Bye.